dusty forest air catches morning light as a leaf falls from a tree, landing on the head of a young Firbolg child. The Firbolg picks it up, turning it over, examining every vein and blemish, every minute fold and crease, awe-stricken by the beauty of it. The echo of a raised voice, maybe more, whispers through the branches from the sun's direction, but the child pays it no heed. The fallen twigs demand far too much of their attention. All at once, the Firbolg is shaken out of their wonderment by a grasp, a familiar, maternal hand placed on their shoulder. They look up to see another Firbolg, much taller but slender, recently cut hair settling neatly behind her ears, falling over her rich green eyes so full of panic. "Young one, what have I told you about going out this far?" She takes a hurried look around before returning her gaze to the child. "But I tire of the kinsland. I have already seen it all." The child stands, pulling herself away from her mother, inching farther eastward. "Young one, you must listen to me. There are dangers past our borders that rival any comprehensible—" The Firbolg child is knocked to the floor as, in one unceremonious instant, her mother is flattened by something huge. The child looks above her and sees a massive armored vehicle, 6 giant metal legs undulating as a beam of arcing blue extends from a dozens of feet long barrel, igniting trees for miles. She hears the sounds of cracks and wrecks, terrified screams ringing out over all of it before that barrel moves slowly, laboriously, until it's facing her. That same blue light begins to grow from within it before she remembers herself, breaking into a full sprint towards her home. Our perspective pans up, and we see the forest. Dozens of those armored crawlers looming over it, beams of blue light crossing paths with balls of brilliant purple, hitting into the crawlers with an ethereal grace, demolishing one, toppling it onto the trees below it, silencing those terrified screams forever. We see the light of countless suns and moons shine across the land as seasons change and trees grow, until we now see 2 Firbolg resting in each other's embrace. "Look out, young one." What do you see? You're at the top of a hill, nestled underneath the vast willow tree outside of your dwelling. The kinsfolk are all moving throughout the clearing, doing their various daily tasks. You can't quite distinguish who you see. Everyone contributes their given gift to the kinship, young one. The collector gathers branches fallen from last night's storm. He brings them to the logger who strips them down, planks them out. They give them to the constructor. She fixes housing damaged by those same branches. They all do their part. My given gift is my role as grandkin, and I lead, I protect. She looks down at you, wiping some dried dirt that is clumped in the hairs on your forehead. One day, you will have a given gift. You'll give it to the kinship, and you will receive the kinship's given gifts to you. One day, when you're ready, when the burden becomes too heavy for my shoulders to bear, that gift will be yours to give. Look out once more, young one. She takes your hand, pointing your finger out across the fuzzy image of the forest, dragging a line across the tree line from the edge of the mountains to the east, all along the river to your west. Everything you see here, young one, this will all be yours one day. This is my given gift to you. I think for this this first scene, you're 6 years old. The responsibilities that the older children have are not yet a requirement for you, so you're left with a lot of free time. What do you do to pass the days in your early childhood?
I think early on I tried to make friends with some of the other kids, some of the other people their age, but they found it difficult. They couldn't really keep up physically or socially, saying the wrong thing, not understanding the game, feeling too tired to play. So they very kind of quickly learned that they preferred to be alone, exploring, walking at their own pace, thinking about their surroundings.
Okay, I think for this scene, we see you in one of those times exploring. You've headed to the river to the west of the kinship. What specifically are you doing there?
They're exploring outside, like they often do. The area that the kinship has settled in is like in the middle of a forest, but they've always found more comfort in the solace of the deeper woods. It's always been a more natural connection with nature than it was with their peers. They've been running, jumping around near the river, and I think they kneel down to kind of catch their breath and scoop up and drink some water from the river.
Okay. As you're kind of leaning down over the river and sticking your hand into it, you kind of notice that it looks a little bit bigger when it's submerged in the water than it is when you just kind of look at it through the air.
I think I, noticing this, kind of run my hand through the water, turning it over, and I think I rush to kind of go get a few like sticks and stones, submerging them under the water, holding them up, seeing how they look different. I think I start looking for kind of more transparent materials, like glass in the river, kind of thin leaves that are around, start kind of collecting and looking through each piece.
I think from there, I want to cut to later that day. You spent a few hours gathering as many of those kind of transparent substances as you could, and now you're back in your dwelling. I guess my first question is, what does your dwelling look like?
It's pretty simple, I think, kind of like Hobbit-esque, where it's kind of built into the ground. I think it's a lot of like packed clay and stones. There's a dirt floor. It's pretty small. I think there's probably a room, that maybe two, that I share with the grandkin.
Okay. So you say kind of Hobbit-esque, but notably, Hobbit homes are not just kind of dirt holes.
Yeah, well, I wanted like that kind of vibe.
A dirt hole. Yeah, okay. You're in this dwelling kind of now messing around with those pieces of transparent materials. You're able to definitely find a lot of different kind of pieces of glass smoothed by the current of the river. What are you kind of doing with them?
I think I also got some reeds from the riverside. Collected those, and I have everything laid out on the floor. So I've started to curve some of the reed grass into these kind of circular shapes, and I've like kind of set them down with stones, holding them in place. And then I go over to my glass, all the glass that I've found, and I start sorting them by thickness, transparency, smoothness. And as I'm doing it, I'm like looking through each one, setting it down, looking through each one, and setting it down, all kind of organized in front of me.
Okay. As you're kind of playing around with these pieces of glass, the grandkin comes in. She kind of looks around the scene before kneeling down next to you, placing an arm around you.
I think I kind of tilt my head into her embrace, and I smile up at her.
Okay. Well, now, looks like somebody had a busy day today. And she picks up one of the pieces of glass, turning it over in her hand before setting it back down. Where did you manage to find all this?
The river?
Well, I have no problem with you playing in the forest, young one. You know how near to our borders the river can draw. I'm not upset with you. I don't want you to get yourself hurt somewhere I can't find you. Do you understand?
Yes. I do.
It's about a year later, and we now go back to that tree outside of your dwelling, where you and the grandkin have been sitting. The sun is low in the sky, shedding its last spread of orange light across the valley before it recedes until the morning. That light bathes you now as the grandkin stands up, going inside, leaving you momentarily before emerging once more. She reaches into her bag and pulls out a beaded necklace. Come close, young one. She takes the necklace and drapes it around your neck, tying the back of it tight. This was something your father used to wear. It was believed that each color of the beads represented one of the core tenets of kinship life, and by wearing it, the gods would shine their favor down upon you and aid in your effort to act as a member of the kinship. I was never one for the spiritual, but I believe that it is important for you to maintain a firm grasp on your bloodline. She gently grabs the necklace, bead by bead, as it hangs from you. The pink is meant to represent perseverance, a continual drive to work for the betterment of the kinship, no matter what hardships present themselves. The purple stands for loyalty, an unwavering bond of selflessness toward your fellow kinsfolk, so that you may receive it in turn from them. Orange is for protection, the desire to protect and be protected by the kinship. We have safety in our numbers, and when we stray from each other, we lose ourselves. White is for the passion for our way of life that is required to uphold our community. Without a passion for the kinship, there is no kinship. She lets go of the necklace and reaches into her satchel. She pulls out one long green vine, beginning to wrap it around your hand. Green is for reverence. Humility is the one thing that separates a leader from a despot, and respect is what keeps a community from crumbling. Without a reverence for our statutes, without an unyielding humility, your position as next of kin is entirely forfeit. She continues wrapping the vine up your arm, over the back of your neck, and down your other arm. It's tight. We wear these vines as a reminder of these principles, as a constant symbol of our duty to each other and to the kinship. For as long as you wear them, you will be worthy of your duty as my predecessor. She finishes tying the vine to your second hand before grabbing you by the shoulders and looking you in the eyes. And I could not be more proud of you for it. She gets up from her knees before moving to the edge of the hill, surveying the kinship once again. The light of the fading sun illuminates the grandkin, casting a shadow over you. What do you do?
I think I'm fidgeting with the vines, trying to gain any slack in them that I can, as I look over at the grandkin, and I ask, what happened to him?
She stops for a moment, turning to look at you before she looks back over the kinship. He was strong, yet he did not let his strength hinder him from being kind. He was perhaps kinder than I ever will be. He was also bold as well as curious, and those two things made for... She trails off before she finds herself once more, straightening her posture. He was more a kinsfolk than I can ever dare to dream of becoming. She meets your eyes and smiles softly before, as the last light of sun disappears over the tree line, she moves back inside, and you can't help but be filled with the nagging understanding that she did not answer your question.
2 years pass, and you are now 9 years old. What do those 2 years at the beginning stages of your broader kinship life look like?
I think it's more pressure than it was before. The Grandkin wanting me to spend more time in the kinship. My days outside in the forest near the river slowly dwindle down. I try to escape out there when I can get away from kind of my duties. I think the Grandkin wants me to be shadowing her as she goes around, talks to her friends, her advisors. She wants me to understand, but I find it hard to pay attention. The endless talking and laughing and joking that I just can't quite get.
Okay. I think for this scene, the kinship has gathered for a meal. Every moon cycle or so, the Grandkin tries to organize a meal for the entire kinship as a way of building their sense of community and reinforcing her role as provider and protector. This one happens to coincide with the naming ceremony of one of your fellow kin children, one who is now named Forager. You're sitting next to your mother, as you typically have for these types of dinners, and she looks down at you. I do enjoy our time spent together, young one, but would you not rather sit with the other children?
I think I kind of look over at them and look back at her kind of awkwardly, and I shake my head.
She smiles at you faintly and says, all right, think about it this way. When you are to take my place one day, you will need to earn the trust and devotion of the kinship. They, and she points to the children all kind of congregated, laughing and playing with each other around their table, are going to be your kinship. Your closest friends and most trusted advisors are sitting at that very table right now. You simply need to meet them. How can you expect to lead these people if you cannot speak to them? Go on. And she kind of gestures and nudges you towards that table.
I slowly get up and awkwardly move towards the table.
Okay, you take a spot there, and immediately things kind of get quieter. Everybody looks around at you. Everybody looks at you for a moment before kind of resuming their conversations, although they've definitely gotten noticeably less raucous in their conversation and joking. One of the older children, the child of the clothier, leans over to you. So, grandkid, think you can put in a word in with your parent to cancel teachings tomorrow? That kind of gets a few chuckles around the table, and after that, all of the children grow silent, looking at you expectantly.
I could try. I mean, I think some of the teachings are pretty important. I don't think she'd like it very much if I asked her to cancel the teachings.
Everybody kind of just remains silent and is looking at you, and nobody really says anything at that, and the mood is just kind of weird until conversation picks back up. Although the energy has definitely shifted into a more negative direction.
I think seeing this, I try to jut into the conversation a couple times to try and make a joke or laugh with them, but I feel out of place. And
yeah, I think as you're joking and stuff, it's either just you get that same kind of silent response, or it's just nobody notices.
Yeah. I think I just kind of make myself smaller, back away from the table, and I'm very embarrassed. I feel my face grow hot and tears are kind of welling in my eyes, and I think I just start running away out into the woods.
Okay, I don't think anybody notices as you go, but you run out into the woods. You run for a while. You run past the river, actually, and you keep running until you stub your toe on something hard. You trip into the forest floor, and when you look up, you can see something large and metal. It looks like it's about a dozen feet wide, and as you look at it more, you can see that portions of it seem to be buried underground. The metal paneling coating it has kind of ripped and torn open in places, and the entire thing looks overgrown. What do you do?
I think shaking off the foot that I stubbed my toe, I go up to this thing. I don't even know if I can call it a machine, but I go up to this, wreck that's here, and I think I start investigating, and I start kind of like pulling some of this metal paneling that's been like already ripped. I think I kind of start pulling that out more and like looking around it.
Inside, you can kind of see that there are a lot of damaged, but some untouched gears and cogs and wires and levers and things. And you've never seen anything like these, but that's, to us, we would recognize them as that. But that's kind of what you see here.
These like foreign shapes.
Right.
I think I start collecting some of these pieces, seeing that it's overgrown. There's no one nearby. I have never gone into the forest this far, and I've never seen anyone else go this far either. I don't think it belongs to anyone in the kinship. I think take some of these, cogs and gears and some of the bigger metal paneling, and I carry as much as my little arms can possibly hold, and I try and sneak back to kind of my dwelling, away from the table where everyone's sitting.
Okay. Three more years go by, and you are now 12. Those parts that you found out in the woods are huge for you. How has that affected the way that you've spent your days these last few years?
It's definitely been an upgrade for me. I'm no longer working with stones and sticks and, whatever I can find in the wild. It's these really interesting metal pieces. It's what I work on in my spare time, trying to make something out of everything that I've found. It's less organic than what I had done before, but I enjoy it.
Have you gone back to that wreck since then?
I think so. I think I keep going back every time to grab a few new parts to investigate. I think it's often when the Grandkin is busy, when I can sneak away, when no one will have noticed that I'm gone, is when I go out to find.
The Grandkin has been very vocal about her expectations of you. How does that sit with you?
It's difficult, awkward. It feels like something that was supposed to be natural never quite clicked, and I could never tell anyone. And so I feel like I've just been trying to catch up and save face and look good for the kinship.
I think in this scene you're kind of tinkering with those pieces, all of them strewn out across, I guess, just the floor of the space that you're working on in your home, when the Grandkin walks in. She kind of stops as she notices what you're actually doing, and for a moment you see a glimpse of rage in her eyes before it gives way to fear. She closes her eyes, and when she opens them again, all traces of emotion have left her face. I am going to be extraordinarily patient with you, despite my inclination not to. What is this?
It's something that I found that I'm working on. And I think I hold up some of these gears that I've fashioned to be working together. And I kind of show it to her. And I go, look, they're moving. I've been able to make them move. And see, that part goes with this one, and it changes how this looks. And I made it.
She's just looking at you, kind of blankly. And you actually have a very difficult time reading the emotion that's on her face. Seconds feel like minutes before she kneels down to get at eye level with you.
Look, young one, I can see the joy that this brings you. It would be wrong of me to strip that from you. But I need you to promise me something.
Okay.
I will turn a blind eye, just as long as this does not interfere with your duties as next of kin, and as long as it never leaves this room. Can we agree at least on that?
I think I look at my half-baked invention on the floor, and I look back at her, and I go, all right. And I think I turn my face away from her.
Okay.
A year goes by. You are now 13 years old. It's early spring, which means it's time for this year's gifting ceremony. This one is a much bigger deal than ceremonies you've attended in the past, because this time, you're of age. The other Fearable children who have become of age in the last year have gone before you, saving the most important for last. I think this scene starts during one of the other kids' ceremonies. A young Fearable girl kneels at the front of the clearing facing the grandkin. Every one of the kinsfolk are in attendance, all knelt before the scene, and there's a familiar exuberance in the air. There's complete silence as the grandkin raises one arm. The young girl stands, slowly, and meets the eyes of the grandkin. Child of the Mender, today you will become a kinswoman. Today you will receive your name. Turn now and present your given gift. The young girl turns around and, shaking but loud, she says, I have been the child of the Mender. Now I give the gift of weaving. She pulls from her bag a beautiful tapestry woven from reed plants, hewn with shades of brilliant green and blue and red, and it depicts a snapshot of the river. There's a murmur of approval and consideration from the kinsfolk knelt around you. Face me, child of the Mender. The girl turns back towards the grandkin. She places a hand on the young girl's forehead. The words which last I spoke, nevermore shall be spoken as your identity. You have displayed your individual personhood, and you have earned your name. The kinship shall forever know you as the Weaver. The grandkin moves her hand to the girl's shoulder, turning her towards the kinship. In that instant, the kinship all stand, cheering. Members of the Weaver's immediate family go to her and place their hands on her, sharing hugs and laughter and smiles as they move to the back of the gathering of the kinship, before, gradually, the cheering and laughter dies down, and everybody kneels again. All eyes are now on you.
I stand and walk towards the grandkin, kneeling.
There's complete silence as the grandkin raises one arm. You stand slowly and meet her eyes. Child of the grandkin, today you will become one of the kinsfolk. Today you will receive your name. Turn now and present your given gift.
I face the grandkin instead of the rest of the kinship, looking her in the eyes with a determination that almost feels wrong of me to have, and I take out my gift.
We see you remove from your bag several different scraps of metal, gears you've constructed, rudimentary wiring and springs. We watch as you begin combining pieces and tightening bolts until, in your hands, lies a small metal chipmunk. You twist a key and place it on the ground, sending it moving off into the woods. As it runs away, you meet the eyes of the Grandkin. She does not hide her emotions now. That same fear and rage boils out of her eyes, barely contained by the formality, and what few strands of ceremony still hold her in place.
I know what my gift is, and I turn to address the kinship. I cannot lead you, but I can make your lives easier. Your fingers do not have to hurt after hours of weaving. The stripping of bark does not have to exhaust you. I helped make my life easier. And I take off my glasses, holding them up. I cannot be your next of kin, but I can give you so much more. This is what I was meant to do.
After you finish speaking, there's nothing but silence. The fear and rage you saw in the Grandkin has begun to simmer down, and all that's left is a disquieting apathy. No. There's a murmur from the crowd. Moments pass and they begin to stand up, each of them getting closer to you. You hear voices from everywhere around you as they begin speaking to you.
It's not too late to receive the name next of kin, young one.
I'm not sure
Nobody
what
will
led you
fault you
down
for
this
a change
road,
of
but
decision,
it
but
is
to do
clear
this,
we must
young one,
watch
you
you
are not
more
alone.
carefully from now
The only
on.
reason you've resorted to this is due to the isolation you've placed upon yourself.
We're here for you.
I look around at the people I've known all my life. I think I meet their eyes for a minute, and seeing this disappointment and pressure, I quickly try to find comfort in someone else. Find a friend, any friend in this crowd of faces surrounding me, and I can't find anyone, and my breathing starts to quicken. I can't distinguish who I see.
A sudden, searing loneliness burns within you as the weight of your communal responsibility falls heavier upon you. These familiar yet featureless frames begin encroaching on all sides, continuing to spout their words of empty promise for a life they want you to fulfill. We can help you, young one. You won't be alone
You don't have to
anymore.
be alone
You
anymore.
can't
hide away anymore.
The path has been laid out for you long before you were born.
I look to the Grandkin, kind of overwhelmed and shaking. I think my breathing quickens even more as I find no comfort from the woman that was supposed to protect me. I think I start subconsciously fidgeting with my invention and some spare parts in my bag.
Their words stop for an instant, but the silence does not remain as a thunderous boom rings out across the clearing. Everyone is pushed back from you, knocked to the floor with a fear you've never seen them outwardly display. The Grandkin, also knocked to the floor, remains with her apathy. What do you do?
It's an easy decision, really. I run.
Months pass, and you're in the woods, far past the borders of the kinship. It's dark, it's raining, it's cold, and you are miserable. You ran as far as you could until you couldn't run anymore, and you've barely stopped walking since. What has that time been like for you?
Extremely difficult. This natural kind of bright teal that they were born with fades as they travel to a darker kind of bluish gray, a duller bluish gray. Their hair has grown in thicker. They can't seem to get warm. My body aches more than it used to as I walk. I don't know why I continue, but I do. I keep walking and walking and walking. The bandages on my feet do little to protect me from the rocks and the dirt and everything that I climb and walk over as I continue.
As the cold seeps farther past what you thought were the centers of your bones, you nearly collapse at the crest of a hill. The rain lessens as you look up to see a willow tree, boughs illuminated by the moonlight. What do you do?
It almost feels like I'm dreaming, but I think the first thing that kind of runs through my mind is the old folk tales that I was told of giants finding rest under the protection of willow trees. I look around me, I look back up at the tree, and with energy that I did not think I possessed, I go up this hill, and I thank the forests and the mountains for giving me this place to stay.
As you curl into the nook laid out by the roots of this tree, as you feel the familiar scratch of the bark against your back, as you shift your aching body atop the loose, wet dirt, feeling some of the warmth of your body re-enter yourself as it bounces off of these surfaces, you fall asleep. Hours later, the sun rises, but it doesn't wake you. What does wake you, however, is the dirt below you giving way. You feel yourself no longer supported by anything as you fall 15 feet onto a cold, hard, dry floor. The golden light shines through the cracks in the walls as well as the hole you just fell through, catching the dust and illuminating the small, overgrown room you found yourself in. The walls and floor are carved from stone and inlaid with metal paneling, some of which have fallen out, revealing wires and gears. The area is almost entirely covered with vines and weeds, but at the center of this room, jutting out from the floor, cylindrical and a few feet tall, you see a machine.
Hey everybody, it's Tin, and I've got your show notes right here. And I got them. And they're here, and they're right here. And I got them. And I'll say it again. I got these darn things. Don't worry, I got them. I'm going to give a super quick shout out to Dax Ayerton on Reddit. That's DAXAYRTON on Reddit. He's got some awesome stuff. Check him out. I want to thank you for listening. It has been entirely too long since we've uploaded an episode. I know I said that the kind of mini hiatus would be over in June, but I wanted to just really make sure that this episode was as perfect as we could make it. So, thank you for your patience, and thank you for coming out. I want to also thank, my good friend Ian, editor Ian, who has, edited some of the episodes for us. He wrote the song that was at the start of this episode. So thank you, Ian, for that. It's awesome. If you like the way that song sounds, you can check him out at his podcast, The Anthologist. It's another D&D show. It's a lot different from ours, but it's honestly, it may be a lot better. They have just started out, and they're doing some really amazing stuff. The first chapter absolutely blew me away, so go give them a listen. I apologize if I sound kind of different in some parts of this episode than I do others. We had some audio problems where bits of our files were kind of eaten up by some weird noises in the background. So the easiest way to fix that was to just do it again. So that's kind of why it sounds different sometimes. So sorry for that. You can follow all of our social medias and find links to the show at linktr.ee/Dice Club Podcast. Share that around. If you use the hashtag #TheDicecast on any social media, we can thank you on the show. We can talk to you through social medias, and we not only we can, we will. If you make any art of the show, we will give you shout outs here. I will, or somebody else will who's doing the ad break. We will do that here. So if you want to share the show around, that would be absolutely amazing, and I would appreciate it. We're really kind of building up steam here for the rest of this campaign and this show, so that would be awesome if you could share it around. The next episode, in other news, I put out a new song on your major streaming services, or any streaming service really. It's called Ashes. You can look for it on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere. Ashes by TINFOLD. Go listen to that if you'd like. I think it's pretty good. Speaking of songs being released, Danny, DC3, who has made numerous songs for this show, has decided to put out some actual music into the world, which I could not be more thrilled. This is kind of like an ad break, so you might think that I'm feigning enthusiasm. I cannot express to you how excited I am for this to actually be a thing that I can just listen to and have him benefit from. I'm very excited. You should be very excited too. It's called State of Mind, and it's going to be out on the 30th of September this month. So set your calendars for that. Look out for that one. And one more thing. Also, here in a few weeks, we will be kind of wrapping up The Ghost in the Machine, which is very exciting, and it also means that we are rapidly approaching our kind of halfway point. So, in light of that, we thought it would be fun to do another kind of Q&A style episode and actually start trying to actively work towards that. So if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment box below the episodes on Spotify. I don't know if Apple Podcasts has any features kind of like that, but you could do that, or you can send them to any of our social medias. That it would be great, and we would love to hear from you. The next episode will come out on October 8th. So I'll talk to you then. Thanks for sticking around. Now let's get back to the rest of the episode. This room is about the size of the bedroom in your dwelling back at the kinship. All the walls are stone, the floor is a smoother, darker stone, but it doesn't feel cold. There's a warmth lended to it by the sun. All the vines and roots and plants scattered throughout the room provide a comforting, familiar green against the backdrop of cold stone and metal. Metal panels line the walls, some of which have fallen off, displaying the machinery within the walls. What do you do?
I think I kind of shake off my body. I stretch. And I cautiously start to look around the room. In the same way that I found that wreck, I make sure the machine is not active and there's no one else around. There's no other danger present. I step into the other areas of this space, kind of past this room. I think I peer into another room that's in here, past this one.
Okay, as you kind of leave this first room, you can see that there is kind of one main hall. Most of the overgrowth is contained in this kind of area. The intended door of this structure is almost completely blocked out by roots and vines, and portions of the walls and floor and ceiling have crumbled away, revealing more of those kind of connective pipes and like wires and machinery and stuff.
I think I kind of look through this like rooted over door as best as I can. I kind of look for any sign of humanoid life in this area, like clothes or shoes or anything.
You don't see any kind of clothes or shoes or anything, but as you kind of are walking around and you go down the hall, you enter another room, the only other room in this building, actually. There are, in this room, sets of shelves hewn from stone, jutting up and out from the walls, containing dozens of books and tomes and various diagrams. The walls are kind of lined with those same panels that you have seen so far.
I think I kind of take a look back around all these rooms just once again, and then I go back into this room with all of the books, and I just start pulling books off of shelves. I begin to organize them by language. I think a lot of them are spread out in front of me, similarly to the glass that I had first gotten.
Mm-hmm.
And I put things back where it would be easiest for me to access. Like in a specific order that makes the most sense to me. And I think that takes a few hours, and once I'm done with that, I pull the first book off of the shelf, and I sit down and I start reading.
Okay. I think that first book is in common,
Mm-hmm.
and you the scene kind of ends with you just kind of reading through it.
Later that day, we see as you note down every single thing about this room and this area, journaling about everything you do and everything you find. We see you now, sitting down, writing.
Day 1. I'm weather-beaten and exhausted. There seems to be no current threat to me in this area besides the lack of structurally sound architecture. Crashing through the ceiling of this room I now find myself in has only made the aches in my body more significant. I have to rest before doing anything more. It almost feels like I'm dreaming. Day 3. After countless hours of sleep, I've woken up and taken a catalog of this place. It seems that this building used to be of use to other people, but based on the age of the plant life growing within the machine, no one has been here for around 30 cycles. I doubt any Firbolg has ever been here. There are 2 rooms and an overgrown hallway that has a main entrance, which seems to have been blocked off by foliage. The machine room is incredibly interesting, along with the books that seem to be written in another language. I believe that there is immense knowledge stored here. I will settle down and devote my research to uncovering the answer to this place. I need to know why people left. I need to know what secrets it holds. Day 14. None of my tools have been able to effectively manipulate the machine. There are no buttons or switches or ports anywhere on the exposed surface. It seems to continue into the earth, but how far down it goes I do not know. The pipes and tiles adorning it were covered with different flora that have allowed me to properly date the abandonment of this place. If the plant life continues throughout the mechanism, it would explain the lack of response to testing. If I can fashion new tools out of the spare metal plating on the walls of the central hall, I may be able to take the machine apart. Day 31. After many days of living here, I've realized how vital it is to improve my areas of living. I've been able to create a small area to rest out of the vast moss and lichen growing in the room, covered with whatever extra fabric I've kept with me from my time in the kinship. The dirt floors are not dissimilar to my old dwelling. I've discovered that the forest nearby contains a fair amount of forageable food. I'll have to prepare for when the frost returns. When I am not working on the machine, these books and their foreign scripts bring me interest. Sometimes I find it difficult to know where to begin. There's so much to learn. Day 75. I cannot begin to understand the motivations of the people who lived here in the past. After managing to translate and understand some of these books, I only find myself with more questions. Why would they just keep folk tales? What is the point? No diagrams, no notes, no nothing. The machine is still unresponsive. It doesn't appear to have any significant damage besides what has grown through it, and I've long removed everything I can. Is the answer simple enough that they did not need to write it down, or too complicated for words? It seems that I can channel my magic through invention. I can tinker and create, and in that process I somehow imbue magic into the item. It's almost like second nature. Creation feels so easy to me that I find it's one of the only things bringing me solace out here. But despite that, it's currently of no help. I'm going to continue reading and trying to figure out these books. There has to be an answer. Day 224. I have tried so many different things to get a reaction. I recently remembered these vines that the Grandkin wrapped around my arms. I barely noticed I still wore them. They had become a second skin, but I felt no worse ripping them off. I used them to hold together some parts that I thought could make something work with the machine, and cast Thunderwave. The vines were torn apart in the process, and I got nowhere. I find myself confused and upset more often than not when doing this. I have to keep going. Day 371. It's been over a cycle in this place. I'm trying to not let the frost affect my research, but it's difficult to stay warm. Besides that, I've come to understand many of the books that are contained here. I believe they're of Dwarven origin, which I assume must be the same for the machine. But I'm running out of them, so I may start going back through my notes and doing further annotation. There has to be something here. This last 10 day, I started tearing down the paneling and walls that line this area. If it continues further into the earth, I might gain more of an understanding about the purpose. From my time in the kinship, I remember druids and sorceress casters talking of their connection to the inherent magic in the world. This machine might be a way to harness that magic into a more tangible form. If someone could gather and consume magic like that, they could potentially gain control of life and change their fate. It's certainly tempting, but just a theory. Day 512. I wake, eat, and continue my research. On days where my food supplies run low, I can forage for a few hours and make preparations to dry and preserve what I need, but it's frustrating to have to take time out of my typical schedule. I've been able to harvest some tree sap that works well as a long-form light source when lit, so I can continue to read and take notes for as long as my body permits. While out gathering, I remembered this fruit I used to eat when I was little and went out in search of it. I thought if I could find it, the juice could keep me hydrated, eliminating the need to gather water. It would save an incredible amount of time that I could then use for note-taking. After a bit of exploration, I found it again. The Sorrow Lychee, they called it. I was able to harvest enough to keep me sustained for at least a few 10-day. It's more bitter than I remember, but if it works, I don't care about the taste. It's late, but I still have some of my earlier journals to go over. I've started to learn to write with my other hand when my left cramps up too severely to continue taking notes. My head hurts. Day 701. Every book has been read. No information about the machine lies within the building. I have read every book here, and I attained nothing more than a shaky at best understanding of the machine and a fundamental knowledge of the Dwarven language. I don't know at what point my research and rereading will become obsolete and pointless. Some part of me wishes I could take a break, but I don't know what I'd do. The closest I can allow myself to get to recreation is sleep, and it's almost involuntary at this point. I just work until my body fails and continue when I'm able to. Besides that, I've been trying to tear away the walls and the ground to go further into the earth. It's proved incredibly difficult. I don't know if there's decay that goes further down below the surface or if there's anything I can do to repair it. That won't stop me from trying, though. I'll do more work tomorrow. I have to keep going. Day 938. I've been trying to get further into the earth, but my hands keep slipping, my tools are not enough, and my body continues to fail me. My electric spells are particularly draining and do not seem to be strong enough anyway. Thunderwave did nothing like everything else I've done. Nothing I do seems to be able to elicit any answer. Maybe it's in a further state of disrepair than I previously thought, but I haven't seen any odd patterns or rot or decay in the machinery. There is an answer for why this machine was built and why it was abandoned. If I could create some kind of contraption that could systematically burrow into the earth and clean or repair the machine, that might help, but I don't know if I want to put in that effort into something that might not get me anywhere. I haven't been able to find any kind of repair system or entrance further underground. So it begs the question, how was it maintained? Was it designed to just work until it failed, and that is why it lays abandoned? Do the dwarves that created this know something about the material that I don't? Is it self-cleaning? So many questions and so little answers. I think I've come to understand that whoever made the machine did not think cleaning it would be necessary, but that only leaves me more confused. Day 1224. I'm tired of having to eat and gather and take time away from my work. If I could just continue with no consequence, I would. I'm afraid if I take too much time away to forage, some part of my mind will wander and I won't be able to return to my research. Some days I feel like I'm close to understanding, and others I barely know where I am. I just wish I could know. If I could just figure it out, my purpose would be complete. I do not think to fear what could come after. A line of thought such as that would only prove distracting, and I cannot afford it. Day 1460. I believe it has been 4 cycles that I have been here. Despite my best efforts, I'm not actually sure how accurate my timekeeping has been. It's hard to keep track. Everything that I do feels so repetitive that I'll write a segment and then realize I had already written that exact thing days or months ago. I'll talk to the walls or the machine when I get confused or lost, which is more often than not these days. My habit of hibernation that I picked up during those transient months still seems to kick in when it grows colder. Sometimes I will sleep for days at a time, forgetting when last I ate or went to the forest. The journal entries help, but I ache for something I cannot articulate. It's lonely and uncomfortable, but familiar out here. I'm tired. I don't know how much longer I can keep going.
A year goes by. It's full of just kind of a lot of the same, a lot of that. At this point, all your books have been annotated with almost more of your own writing than those that were printed. I'd imagine you've fallen into some sort of a routine. What does that look like?
It's a lot of waking up next to the machine, going and getting food and water, and looking back at the machine again, and looking at my notes and my journals and all of everything that I've written down. I keep looking back at it, looking for something that I've missed, something that I just didn't quite read into the right way, something that will make me finally understand this. And it's going back into the other room with all of the books, pulling books from the shelves, bringing them back, looking over my notes, putting books away, putting books next to me, opening, closing, writing, testing, again and again, until I realize that I get hungry again, and I eat, and then I sleep, and it continues like that.
You've made a couple choices in your life that have kind of led you to where you are right now. What do you think about what you've kind of done to get here? Do you think about what has led you to where you are?
I think I do. Especially at the beginning, I feel like I'm always questioning what I did, looking back and wondering if I made the right decision, going through all the possible what ifs. What if I did this? What if that happened? What could I have changed? But I find very early on that doesn't bring me any progress with the machine. Thinking about the past is not going to help the present at all right now. That is not important. My past is not important. What I have been through is not important right now. What is important is figuring out this and what it does and how I can use it. And if I do that, then I will have accomplished something.
How do you see your future? What do you picture that as?
I think I'm so involved and deep into this machine that I can't picture a future because I don't know what this does. And if I could just figure it out, then I would know my future. Then I would know what I would continue doing. But I don't. So I don't think about it.
How does your day end?
It ends often kind of against my will. My day ends when my body begins to fail, when I can no longer keep walking around, when I can no longer continue to write, when I'm too tired to keep casting spells, when I'm too tired to keep tinkering and trying to figure this out. That's when my day ends. I fall asleep against the machine like I often do.
Okay. A couple more years go by, and at this point, you are 19. You spent the day, as you typically do, kind of lost in your research. What book are you reading right now?
I think I'm reading the first common book that I picked up. I think a lot of the pages have thinned from wear. But I'm looking over my notes again. I was able to find the first notes that I wrote on this book. And my notes are about as long as the pages are.
Yeah.
But so it makes my reading longer. I can't go through these books at the same pace that I used to be able to, because I'm reading double the amount, and cross-referencing and looking. But That's what I'm doing.
You've been kind of fairly consumed by this, and you're only broken out of your research trance by the sound of your stomach rumbling. What do you do?
I kind of groan, and I put a hold in the book, and I close it. And I set it to the side because I know I'm going to come back to it later. And I go to get some food.
Okay. As you kind of check your reservoir of food and water, you find that it is entirely empty. And as you see that, you can hear a crack of thunder from above you. What do you do?
I know that if I don't get food now, it's gonna suck more later. So I kind of stretch my body and I go grab a lantern that I've made for these kind of outings, and a kind of sewn together coat of kind of the big leaves and mosses that I've found nearby, and I put that on and I head out the front door.
As you're kind of walking outside, feeling the windswept rain cutting past your fur, damp coldness of the water seeping into your skin and grazing against your bones, you see a flash of light and hear the sound of a crash as behind you a tree falls, crashing against the ground. If you'd been moving any slower, it would have crushed you. What do you do?
I think earlier on, the forest at night was a lot scarier for me. I traveled for a while, but it's still daunting. There's a lot of things out there. But I'm more used to it. It's not frightening, but the recent change in the pressure makes my joints ache in an uncomfortable way, and it doesn't look like the rain's gonna let up.
As you're kind of like having this difficult time like navigating and trying to find any food to eat, while you're leaning over to try to look at a plant, your legs give out and you fall down kind of this small cliff face. Your lantern breaks and your skin is cut by the rocks and the glass that's just fallen onto the ground.
I think it's just all so overwhelming. And I'm sitting there at this rockside area. I just don't understand. I don't understand. If I could just understand, then it would all be worth something. But I've never been able to understand. And I think I look up at the sky, the rain kind of pouring over me, and I just hold myself and I cry.
I think not long after that, you re-enter the machine room. It's dark. Rain seeps through the cracks in the walls, pooling in the center of this room around this machine you've spent so long studying, to no avail. A cold breeze flows through the doorframe, sending shivers through you once more. What do you do?
I look around the room. There's the only sign of life in the room is myself. And I think as I go over to the water basin, I look at myself in the reflection, even that I think could be argued. I go back over to the machine. I crouch down next to it, and I wrap my arms around it, and I just give it a hug, and I pack up my most important notes and my journals, the water that I have, and I leave with the clothes on my back on my own terms.
Okay. We see you moving through the forest, finding easy places to make shelter, starting fires where you can, and hibernating where you can't. We see you traversing the prairies, nestling yourself in the proper places to best avoid the cutting wind. We see you, rather than trying to fight against nature to survive, we see you working with it. This scene now is you kind of making one trek through the marshlands, and we see as you settle there for the night. What's going through your head right now?
I think a calmness has kind of washed over me. I still want to know what that machine does. And that's why I have to leave, because so much of my time was trying again. And I felt so caught up in my own head, I couldn't escape. So the best course of action was for me to leave, get a different perspective on it, and when I come back, I'll have the answer.
The following morning, you wake up and leave the marshlands. We see you walking through the last stretch of plains as you cut through the tall grass onto a road. Here, you encounter the first people that you've seen in years. There's a human woman, a half-orc man, a possum, it looks like, a tiefling woman, a dwarven man, and a half-orc woman. What do you do?
I go up to this party, and I just wave at them. And I go, hello.
This is interactive.
Oh my god.
Hi.
Ren waves back, but it's like a cool, like, two-fingered sort of like... Venus is waving very fast.
Good morrow, traveler. Is that people say that?
No.
Are you a part of the team?
I kind of look around, and I walk a little bit closer to them, and a team?
Yeah, we're gonna go into the fucking, what was it again? The cave?
The cave? Yeah.
Heard it's the
cave
last
that no one's
job we'll
ever come out
ever
of?
need. Big money involved.
Big money. That's all I know is it's big money. That's frankly all I care about.
Can I see the cave from here? From where I joined the group?
No. You cannot.
Yes. I am going to be joining you. If that's okay.
Hell yeah. Sick.
Yeah, whatever.
Yurix! Yes!
Yurix!
Yes!
We missed you!
What do you think, Matilda?
I sure hope you never fall into any cave chasms.
She gives a solemn nod.
All of our favorite party member, Matilda.
I hope her fear of heights doesn't play into this.
When Marsh says they're gonna be a part of the team, Ren goes over and is like, hell yeah, and gives them a little, like, punch on the arm, and says, hey, I'm Ren, and, like, extends his hand for a handshake.
Hello.
What's your name?
And I kind of turn around and look behind me from where I came from. Marsh.
I'm Meadow.
Its name.
And I shake Meadow's hand as well. So, you're going into this cave?
Lots of gold. Definitely gonna be lots of gold.
Adventure,
You like gold?
also. Mostly
like gold.
adventure.
An adventure and danger.
Hopefully not that
oh
much
my
danger.
gosh. Don't even
We're gonna
get
make
me
it out.
No, the
started
danger
on
is
the danger.
fine.
Trials and tribulations aplenty.
I think as they're all laughing and joking, I think Marsh smiles and laughs for the first time in a very, very long time.
And the scene freezes there, kind of focused on your smile. We see you all in that black space again. The old ladies are still standing between the four of you and Marsh, and the one in front begins to speak. We understand your hesitation to have your story relived, or shown at all, leastwise to your compatriots. Nonetheless, it had to be shown. They look over to the four of you before turning back to Marsh. We have one more thing we need you to see. I would rather have kept from influencing, but it seems that line has already been crossed, and for the sake of a balanced scale, and all three of them kind of wave a hand, and now more images begin playing. You can see a dark room, two tunnels cut by a ravine, a rickety wooden rope bridge spanning the length of it. Marsh, we see you kind of excitedly telling Venus how you held on to her rope and pythons. She tells you how proud she is of you. We see a line of carriages parked outside of Shiftstone Castle, guards helping you out of the first carriage, and Ren falling out onto his face in front of Cyrus. We see Venus and Saradin picking on him a little bit for it, but you, Marsh, you help him up. We see the look of a much deeper appreciation in his eyes before you're all shepherded inside. We see a stone brick corridor, red carpet running down the length of it, leading to a massive open wooden door. We see you, Venus, Saradin, and Kajuka as you speak to Demetrius. We watch as you follow your first instinct to run out after the missing Ren and Meadow. We see the respect and solemn joy in the eyes of Venus and Saradin as you so quickly are willing to endanger yourself for them. We see Meadow on the table in the Northelm dining hall, coughing back to life. We see her look at you with surprise and love after you healed her, and we see Saradin give you that same expression as him and Meadow hug. We see Shiftstone Castle, burnt wood still smoking on the ground around you, Kairos' body burned and lifeless just feet away. We see you collapse, breaking down after that stress, and we watch as Venus comes running up to you, pulling you into an embrace. The scene doesn't change from that for a while. We see an underground grotto, the wreck of the Despair floating in the standing water here, your party standing next to Novella and the stalagmite where the catalyst was. We watch as Venus looks around and does a quick head count before she notices that you aren't there. We see the relief in her eyes when you come out of the wreck. We see the brig of the Salvation, doors swinging open as your party returns to you. They're holding the crystal compass, and Meadow, knowing your expertise, asks you about it. Saradin pulls out the blueprints, and we watch them all watch and listen very attentively as you gush about the engineering. We see the deck of the newly formed Despair, your party all hugging Venus. We watch you make up your mind to join in, and we see them all move their arms to make way for you to join them. We see the floating coral platform, everybody linking hands, holding onto each other as one group, one party, as you run through the portal. You see the alcove where you rested after your fight with the tendrils. We see Venus making eye contact with you as she says how glad she is to have met you all. We see a crossroads in the mechanical city, you curled up next to one of the buildings. We see Saradin come around the corner having sought you out. We watch as they comfort you, as she just sits with you, and without prodding, without prying, with a genuine concern in her voice, asks you about what happened. We watch Saradin coalesce to every request you make, and later we see them coming back to seek you out again. We see Venus going to you privately at the city square, reinforcing how she understands the position you're in. We see true, unknowing sympathy behind her eyes as she tells you she will be there for you. We see the intense concern in the eyes of your party as you continually throw yourself at the generator. We see the fear for their friend as they stop you from hurting yourself further. And in that same room, we see Saradin continue to ask you for your advice on how to get the puzzle solved. We see the central processing terminal. You aren't there. The robots have sprung to life and have begun attacking your party, but they don't leave. You watch as, with a steadfast determination, they all take a lot of damage in hopes of getting back to you. The scene freezes there, as the fear and concern and perseverance is outlined on the faces of your party members. The old ladies wave a hand again, and the image is gone. The one in front takes a step forward, and with a smile, she says, "The fool and the eagle, together again. The fool, unaware of his imminent end. He built many towers. They stretched to the sky, but none were so tall as the eagle could fly. The power he holds grows greater once more, and with that, ours is diminishing. We have helped you where we could, but I fear that from here on out, you will be on your own." She looks at you, Marsh, and says, "While our version of events is an accurate portrayal, that does not mean that Seeker's is not. One does not discount the other. Your choice remains your own, but the full range of data should be at least at your disposal before you make said choice. When you are ready, you will no longer be in this space, but as a kind of parting gift, take the time that you need." And with that, you don't see them anymore. The five of you are now in that black space. Alone. What do you do?
Venus immediately starts running towards Marsh, and she embraces them, and she takes her hands and she puts them around Marsh's head. And I'm sorry we couldn't be there, Marsh. I didn't mean for Seeker to take you, and I'm so glad that you're back.
Saradin also runs up to Marsh and grabs onto their leg and holds onto it and says, I'm also sorry. I get it. A little bit. I get it.
Yeah, Ren walks over, like, a little bit, like, slower than the rest of them, because I think he's just still a little bit, like, in... Shock is not the right word, but, like, you know, he's...
Yeah.
He walks over, and he just, like, it stands, like, in front of Marsh, and is just says, "Marsh, I'm so sorry," and, like, gives them a hug.
Meadow is a bit slower as well, and you can see that she's cried a little bit. And she approaches as well, and she doesn't immediately go for the hug, and she says, I'm sorry that I haven't been a better friend to you, Marsh. I don't have a lot of practice at being a friend, but I really hope that it's not too late. And then she also goes for the hug.
I think Marsh is... I think they're kind of crouched or kneeled down, and as everyone is going up to them, I think there's this small pulse of electricity that moves out of them. If they were colder, if they were stronger, it might have pushed them away, but it doesn't quite make it that far. And it just kind of pulses out of them, and sobbing as loudly as you've ever seen them cry before, falls forward into Venus's embrace and holds her until they are sure that she won't let go, and allows the rest of the party to come in and embrace them as well.
The rest of the party can be there too.
I'll allow it.
I think that the whole time, Venus is just like cupping their head and like caressing it and pushing their hair back.
It seems like we can be here as long as we need, so just let us know when you're ready to go.
I think Marsh nods into Venus's hair or like shoulder, wherever they are. And after a long but not uncomfortable length of time, Marsh sits back on their legs. None of you were supposed to see that or know about it. I mean, I knew it was coming, but I thought that if I went with Seeker, it wouldn't have to, and none of you would have to see that.
Sometimes we have to make hard decisions. And I would say that's especially the case when we're a bunch of little playthings for some old ladies. But now you know that you're not alone in this. And you didn't want us to see this, but this is kind of the name of the game we're in. So, you're not alone. And you're not with Seeker right now. But really, I need you to know, you can do whatever you want to do.
Ren's hand, if it wasn't already on Marsh's shoulder, it like, he puts it there and like squeezes a little bit, and he's like, you're not alone, Marsh. I'm so sorry that you felt like you were.
It was nothing new. It's hard to connect with people, and they kind of smile a little bit, and because Seeker's a construct, and I know constructs, I know machines, I try to know how they work. I thought that I could predict what was going to happen and prevent this. But to be honest, I'm just quite tired. It's been a long couple of days.
Well, I think we'll just take some more time here, and as much as I don't want to, we will still have to leave and face it, but we can at least make the choice to do it when we can.
And we can at least face it together.
I think Marsh tilts their head kind of onto his hand that he put on their shoulder, and they look to the rest of the party and they go, I'm sorry if I worried any of you. I didn't die. There's that.
Ren chuckles in canon. That was a Ren.
I thought you were gonna say in common.
That was a Ren or Ridge.
Chuckles in a different language.
I chuckle in giant.
Dude, literally.
And chuckles in
I chuckle in
Elvish.
Elvish.
I chuckle in whatever language I have. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, I don't remember
Infernal?
what
Yeah,
language
that
I
one.
liked apart from common.
Marsh, so since we have basically all of the time in the world, I don't really know how this works, but do you know where you are? Like, physically, your body right now? I know, like, spiritually we're, like, in this void, but, like, we're currently stuck in, like, a forest?
No, because we came through the little
it's a-
portal thing,
it's a
so I think
portal
we're physically...
situation.
Yeah, so I think we're
But
physically in here.
I mean, we can't just... Like, Cyrus is still...
Oh, shit!
I was thinking about that. Cyrus is somewhere.
Guys, I'm not... No.
Let's just leave him.
No.
I feel like we'll go back
I
to the...
think...
That's
Okay.
gonna be
I
one of
didn't
the
mean
things
that,
that
but-
comes back and haunts you.
Yeah. I don't... Cyrus...
Cyrus is gonna
A
have his
butterfly
own
symbol
secret
appears in the
moment.
top of the corner.
Who needs him?
No, that seems unfair.
We've been down this
We-
road before,
okay.
Saradin.
Listen. We've had our problems with him, but he's a part of the party right now. We can't just leave him.
Okay.
Yeah, Do I have any idea of where Seeker went?
Deeper into the machinery.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, I guess wherever we end up, Seeker was probably gonna find us, so... Wait. Shit, where's the... Seeker has the crystal, so...
Oh yeah, and they went like
Oh.
away.
yeah, so...
They, I think my bag's probably like a few feet away. I kind of go over to it and I open it and I say, Seeker gave me the crystal.
Oh.
And I kind of look at the rest of the party.
Well, I guess... Then, if we're gonna go, all we have to do is...
Just leave, right?
Get to
Just not
the-
get caught.
Arch. Well, yeah. Hopefully.
Go back
not.
at Cyrus. Go back to the very beginning.
I mean, sounds like a plan to me. Marsh? You up for it?
Sorry, they just gave it to you?
Yeah, just put it in my bag. Do you know what happened between us?
Only parts of it.
If we leave now, can we find somewhere to rest?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
Hold on. Wait. If you have the crystal, then maybe you could come back through our side and just hang out in this underground forest with us and rest. We wouldn't even need to go back to Seeker.
I don't
Yeah.
know where Seeker is. And I think I don't know where we will be when we take this void down. But we can try.
Then let's try.
I think Marsh kind of shaking a little bit stands up and kind of like thinks to themselves, I don't need to be in this space anymore. I click my heels 3 times.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's no place like home. There's no place like home.
There's no place like, I want to be a witch. Bayonetta theme song starts playing.
Sure.
That's really good. That's a good one.
Marsh disperses this void? Question mark?
Sorry, I think I heard you say that you thought that you were
Yeah,
ready
did the
to
ladies
not
come
be in it,
back?
but I was trying to
Yeah.
look back to my notes to see if Cyrus was in the middle of if I cut Cyrus off,
Oh.
so he could just finish the thought, but he didn't. So, as you kind of think that to yourself, just instantly, you now see yourself in a forest. All 5 of you, actually. Well, all 6 of you. Because now Cyrus kind of sees that you all have stopped walking, and he turns around and sees Marsh.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And he says, how do I keep missing this stuff?
We gotta get this guy in on this.
Somebody should make like fan edits of these episodes, but only with the parts that Cyrus gets to see.
Okay. No. This is important. Are we still in like the exact same spot we were before we got?
Exactly the same spot. Exactly the same
So
spot.
I'm still like grabbing his arm.
You actually are still holding onto his arm.
Jesus Christ. I think noticing that we're back in this place and that I'm still grabbing his arm. I think it like takes me a second to process that. And then I like
It takes him a second too, because he was frozen when you grabbed his arm. He didn't know that you were grabbing his arm before. So he's like, he looks down at the arm and looks up at you and just like looks very confused.
and then
He's a
Ren,
very confused guy.
Ren does the exact same thing. He looks down at the arm and then he like makes eye contact with Cyrus and he like drops it and he like takes a step back and then he's like, yeah, you do just keep missing this shit. Marsh is back anyway.
Oh yeah, Marsh.
We got Marsh.
Hi, Marsh. How's it going?
I think Marsh breaks down into tears again.
No! Cyrus!
See you next time on Dice
See you
Club.
guys next time.